Well, hello there and welcome to this video on the transport system in humans. So in the last few lessons, we've looked at blood, we've looked at blood vessels, and now we're going to take a closer look at the heart itself. So if you haven't already realized, this picture here shows you a heart. Yes, it looks a bit disgusting when it's taken out of the body. And all this yellow stuff here, that's the fat that surrounds the heart and protects it. And in just a while, we're going to take a closer look into the heart. We're going to take a closer look at what are the different parts of the heart and how blood flows through it. But before that, I want you to take a look at this object here on the left. What do you think it is? Well, in fact, it's actually very closely related to this heart. What this is over here, this is actually an artificial heart. It's constructed to help people with heart failure. So some people, their heart breaks down, it cannot work anymore. So we make an artificial heart, put it into them so that they can continue to live. But in order to make an artificial heart, we first need to understand how the actual human heart works. And so that's what we're going to do for the rest of this lesson. So in your notes, you should see this rather complicated diagram of the heart. It looks really difficult, but we're going to go through it together. So the first thing to realize is that the heart has a left side and a right side. Now, how do you recognize which is the left side and the right side? Here's how you do it. Usually, just look for the tip of the heart. So if you see the heart, right, it usually has a tip. There's this pointed tip. And this pointed tip is usually the left side. So if you find the pointed tip, that's the left side of the heart. And the other side would be the right side. So here's the left half, and here's the right half. Now the left side is also the side that usually has thicker walls. So one way to remember this is that the left side is the tip, and I remember this because left starts with L. L looks a bit like a tip, right? Like a pointed tip. So the left side is the side with the tip. And so label this side as the left, and this side as the right. Okay, so now that we know which is the left side and the right side of the heart, I'm going to share with you that the left side of the heart contains blood which is oxygenated. So you can take a red color pencil and you can shade the left side of the heart. So the left side is actually full of oxygenated blood. So you represent that with a blue color. While the right side of the heart is actually full of deoxygenated blood. So I represent that with a blue color. And the deoxygenated blood and the oxygenated blood do not mix in the heart. And that's because the left side of the heart and the right side of the heart are separated. And they're separated by this layer in the middle called the median septum. And it's very important that the left side is separated from the right side. Because some people are born with what is called a hole in the heart, where there's a hole in the separation. So this median septum is broken as a whole. So what happens is that oxygenated blood can mix with deoxygenated blood, and that really harms the function of the heart. And people with hole in the heart when they're born, it's harder for them to survive, and they need to usually do an operation to help them survive. Okay, so the next thing to know is that the heart has 4 chambers. It's a bit like the 4 rooms in your house. So the heart has 4 rooms. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we start over here on the right side. This chamber here is called the right atrium. And then on the left side, we have what is called the left atrium. And returning here again, on the right side, we have the right ventricle. And then on the left side, we have the left ventricle. Right, I know it's a lot of new words. Take a bit of time to learn these new words. It's how people have described the heart for many years. So you will realize that these 2 chambers on top was called the atrium. The right atrium and the left atrium. Now the atrium are the chambers that receive blood into the heart. So later on you'll see that when blood flows into the heart, it will enter the atrium. And here also blood flows into the heart, it will enter the atrium. So atrium, the plural, so one atrium and many atria. Okay, the atrium are the chambers which receive blood into the heart. So blood moves into the atrium. Now below the atrium, we have the ventricles. So the bottom chambers are called ventricles. The right ventricle and the left ventricle. Now the ventricles are the chambers that will pump blood out of the heart. So we'll see later on. Right, here's the right ventricle, it will pump blood out this way. And the left ventricle will pump blood out this way. Okay, so atrium receives blood. Ventricles pump out blood. Now one way to remember this is ventricle sounds like vent. So you vent your anger, you vent. Venting your anger is a very forceful thing. So the ventricles pump the blood out, while the atrium accepts or receives the blood into the heart. Now finally, we have 4 main blood vessels which come and go from the heart. Now you already know the names of these 4 main blood vessels, but now you just need to learn how they look like on the heart. So the first one to introduce to you is the vena cava, which is over here. Now how do you recognize the vena cava? Okay, I'm going to change my pen color. Okay, the vena cava brings blood into the right atrium. So this is the right atrium. I'm going to write RA, right atrium. And the vena cava carries deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So it's this blood vessel here that brings the blood into the right atrium. Now this vena cava, there's actually another part which is down here. This is also the vena cava. But this part of the vena cava brings the blood from the bottom half of your body that's deoxygenated. And this part of the vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from the upper part of your body, so like your hands and your arms. Okay, so that's the vena cava. Next, okay, we have the pulmonary artery. So what's the pulmonary artery? Okay, I'm going to shade the pulmonary artery for you. So this blood vessel here is the pulmonary artery, and it's going to carry blood away from the heart. So from the right ventricle RV, the right ventricle will pump the blood out into the pulmonary artery to go to the lungs. So why is the pulmonary artery shaped in this way? There's like 2 branches. Well, that's because one branch goes to your right lung, while the other branch goes to your left lung. So you have 2 lungs, right? So the pulmonary artery will branch out. So actually the pulmonary artery is very easy to recognize because it's going to your lungs and you have 2 lungs. So you see this branch coming out this way. Right, next we have the pulmonary vein. So the pulmonary vein is this blood vessel here. And the pulmonary vein brings oxygenated blood from the lungs back into your heart, into the left atrium, the LA. So over here. So this is the pulmonary vein bringing oxygenated blood back into your left atrium. Actually over here is also your pulmonary vein, but this is the pulmonary vein coming from your right lung, and this is the pulmonary vein coming from the left lung. So they're both going to bring blood into the left atrium. Okay. And finally, we have the aorta. So the aorta is this blood vessel here. Just let me shade it for you. So the aorta is very special. It forms this arch over here, and it has many branches. So the aorta branches out, and remember that function of the aorta is to bring oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. Right. So here is the left ventricle, LV, left ventricle. It's going to pump blood out into the aorta to go to the rest of the body. So the reason why there's this arch is that this arch will then bring oxygenated blood to the bottom of your body, to your legs and everything below. Well, all these branches here will bring oxygenated blood to the top part of your body, so to your hands, to your head, and everything. Okay, so these are the 4 main blood vessels. Please know where they are located around the heart. Okay, now that we've seen the structure of the heart, we're going to take a look at how blood flows through the heart. So here's a diagram showing how the heart fills up with blood, and then blood is pumped out. Fills up with blood, and then blood is pumped out. Fill up, and then pump out. So how do we describe this? Well, there's actually three main phases. Let me describe to you the phases first, then show you in the diagram. So the first phase is that both the atrium and the ventricles will relax. So the whole heart relaxes, and when the heart relaxes, blood can fill up the heart. Then the next stage, both the atria will contract, and this will push the blood from the atria into the ventricles. And finally, both the ventricles will contract and the blood will be pumped out of the heart. So I'm going to number this as 1, 2, and 3. And when you take a look at the diagram now, I'm going to tell you when it's 1, 2, and 3, okay? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you can see, relax, atrium contract, ventricle contract. Relax, atrium contract, ventricle contract. Relax, atrium contract, ventricle contract. Okay, and that's how the blood flows through the heart. Okay, so in your diagram, you can fill up the overall thing. Okay, so both atrium and ventricles will relax first, the blood will fill up the heart. Then the atrium will contract and blood will move into the ventricles. Then the ventricles will contract and blood will be pumped out of the heart. Alright, but now we're going to take a look at what happens on each side of the heart. Okay, so on the right side of the heart, first, the right atrium, over here, the right atrium will relax. So this is the right atrium. It will relax and then blood will move from the vena cava into the right atrium. Then after that, the right atrium will contract. So right atrium contracts. And when the right atrium contracts, blood will move into the right ventricle. Then the right ventricle will contract. So I'll write this as RV will contract. And when the right ventricle contracts, it will squeeze the blood out into the pulmonary arteries. And then the blood will move to the lungs to pick up oxygen. Alright, so in our overall diagram here, okay, in the first part, remember that both atrium and ventricles relax, then the blood will fill the heart. So on the right side, what's happening is that the right atrium is relaxing and blood will move into it from the vena cava. Then the next stage, the atrium will contract. So on the right side, right, you can write down here that the right atrium contracts and therefore blood moves into the right ventricle. And then finally, the right ventricle contracts and then blood will be pumped out to the pulmonary artery to the lungs. Now, while that is happening on the right side, there are some events taking place on the left side as well. So on the left side, right, when the whole heart is relaxing, then the left atrium, over here, the left atrium is relaxing, then blood will move into the left atrium from the pulmonary veins. Right, then after that, the left atrium will contract, and then blood will move into the left ventricle, over here. And then finally, the left ventricle will contract, and then blood will be pumped out through the aorta to the rest of the body to deliver oxygen to the rest of the body. Okay, so in your overall diagram here, on the left side, blood moves from the pulmonary vein into the left atrium. Okay, so these two events here on the right and the left side, they're actually taking place at the same time. So as blood moves into the left atrium, blood is also moving into the right atrium. Right, then after that, on the left side, the left atrium contracts. And at the same time, on the right side, right, the right atrium is contracting. So on the left side, when the left atrium contracts, blood will move into the left ventricle. And then the left ventricle will contract, and then blood will be pumped out through the aorta to the rest of the body. Right? Okay, so in summary, you can actually use blue and red color pencils to draw on your diagram of the heart to show how blood flows through the heart. So from the vena cava, deoxygenated blood into the right atrium, then into the right ventricle, to the pulmonary artery. Blood comes back from the pulmonary vein to the left atrium, then to the left ventricle, and then out through the aorta. Now it sounds very confusing, but if you just replay this several times and think about it slowly, you'll get it. Alright, let's end off this video with a quick check, and then I'll see you back in class. All the best.